I should have been thinking about the ending of the movie Kpop Demon Hunters, about how the protagonist, an idol with the face of an angel and the moves of a warrior, defeated the final specter. But my gaze was locked on the back row. In the dim light of the rolling credits, I saw Marco, my best friend Bia's boyfriend, with someone else. And the worst part? He knew I had seen him. In that instant, the horror story was no longer on the screen. It was starting in my life. The night had begun so innocently. It was a casual outing with classmates from a summer course at the university, a way to celebrate the end of exams. Bia couldn't make it. She was at a family dinner, but she encouraged me to go. "How fun! And tell me if the lead actor really looks like Hanjin from Stray Kids," she texted me, along with a heart emoji. My friendship with Bia was the surest constant in my life. We had known each other since childhood, a bond forged in shared secrets, late-night K-drama binges, and a deep love for the music that connected us. She was on cloud nine with Marco. "He's so attentive, Anna," she had told me just last week. "He really listens to me. I feel like I can tell him anything." And as her best friend, I was genuinely happy for her. At the movie theater, the atmosphere was pure excitement. Fans with light sticks, t-shirts of their favorite groups, all eager for the premiere. I sat with my classmates somewhere in the middle of the theater. From a distance, I spotted Marco. He wasn't with Bia, obviously, but with a group of his friends. I thought it was normal. He had a right to a night out with his buddies too. The movie started, a spectacular action fantasy, and I lost myself in the story. It was only at the end, as the house lights began to come up, that my eyes wandered. And then I saw him. He was no longer with his friends. He was in the back row, in one of the darkest corners, and a girl was with him. It wasn't a friendly chat. Her hands were in his hair, and their faces were far too close. Then it happened. A clear, undeniable kiss, the kind that leaves no room for misinterpretation. My stomach turned. I felt a mixture of disgust and panic. And as I was processing the scene, Marco's eyes, as he pulled away from the girl, scanned the rising audience. And for a second that felt like an eternity, they locked with mine. There was no doubt. He saw me. The recognition in his gaze was immediate, followed by a flash of something cold and calculating. My first instinct was to run. I made a lame excuse to my classmates and hurried out of the theater, my heart hammering in my chest. I needed air, needed to think about how I was going to tell Bia. But as soon as I reached the lobby, a hand grabbed my arm. It was Marco. The easy smile he always wore around Bia was gone. His face was hard, his eyes threatening. "You didn't see anything in there," he said, his voice low and dangerous. I pulled my arm away. "I saw everything, Marco. How could you do this to her?" He took a step forward, cornering me against the wall. "And how are you going to tell her?" he hissed. "Are you going to tell her and risk me in return, telling everyone, including her, what happened in your junior year, about the reason you had to transfer to Northwood High in the first place?" My blood ran cold, my past, the secret I had buried so deep that not even Bia knew in all its detail. He smiled, a cruel smile that didn't belong on the face my best friend loved. He continued, "I don't think so. So let's make a deal. You keep my secret, and I'll keep yours." He turned and walked away, leaving me paralyzed, the echo of his threat reverberating in my mind. He hadn't just seen me, he had chained me. Now I was trapped with a toxic piece of information, forced to face my best friend every day, knowing her love was a lie, and carrying the burden of a secret that had the power to destroy her life and mine. The days that followed that night at the movies were a kind of silent torture. The secret was a poison running through my veins, and every interaction with Bia became a test of endurance. She would call me, radiant, to tell me about the perfect surprise date Marco had planned for her, and I'd have to force a joyful tone while the image of him kissing another girl replayed in my mind. She'd show me a new picture of them together smiling, and I'd have to say, "You guys are so cute," while Marco's threat echoed in my ears. Every smile I gave Bia felt like a betrayal. Every silence a form of complicity with the man who was deceiving her. I became a detective against my will, watching Marco from a distance, searching for cracks in his perfect boyfriend facade. I'd see him on campus, always charming, always attentive to Bia in front of others. He was a talented actor, and he saw me too. His eyes would meet mine from across the courtyard, and he'd give me a small, almost imperceptible nod, a silent reminder of our deal. It was a gesture that made me feel dirty, a participant in his deceit. I started avoiding situations where I'd be near them both, making up excuses to miss dinners or group dates. Bia, of course, noticed my distance. "Anna, is everything okay?" She asked me one day, genuine concern in her voice. "You seem so distant lately. Did something happen?" And I lied. I said it was stress from my classes, that I was just tired. Every lie was another brick in the wall that was growing between us. The first turning point, the moment that made the situation even more unbearable, happened on a Friday night. Bia had convinced me to go to a small party at a mutual friend's house. Marco would be there. I spent the whole night tense, keeping a safe distance from him. At one point, I was in the kitchen getting a drink when he walked in. We were alone. "You're doing a good job," he said, his voice low and casual, as if we were talking about the weather. "Keep it up." The contempt in his tone made my blood boil. "How long do you think you can keep this up, Marco?" I retorted. "She's going to find out." He laughed, a humorless laugh. "No, she won't, because her best friend would never say anything." Then he stepped closer, his smile vanishing. "And just so you don't forget what we're dealing with," he took his phone out of his pocket and showed me a picture. It was a screenshot of an old post from an account I had deleted long ago. A photo of me from years ago at a party, visibly intoxicated, next to people I never should have been involved with. It was the evidence of the mistake that forced me to change cities and my life. The mistake I had sworn to myself I would leave behind. It would be a shame if Bia, or maybe her parents, saw this, wouldn't it? He said, putting the phone away. "Remember, Anna, we're in the same boat." In that moment, I realized he wasn't just blackmailing me, he was enjoying it. The renewed threat left me in a state of paranoia. I felt watched, cornered. I started having nightmares about my past. The guilt and fear were consuming me. I could barely look at Bia without feeling a wave of nausea. My mental health was deteriorating. I knew I had to do something, but I saw no way out. Telling the truth meant risking my friendship with Bia, who might not believe me or might blame me for hiding it, and at the same time having my worst mistake exposed to the world. Staying silent meant continuing to be Marco's accomplice and destroying myself from the inside. The second turning point, the moment the situation escalated to a new level of danger, came from an unexpected source. I was in the library, trying to focus, when I received a text from an unknown number. "I know what you saw in the back row." My heart stopped. The next message arrived a second later. "And I know what he's doing to you." It was from the girl at the cinema. Her name was Sophia. She told me Marco had been manipulating her for months, promising to break up with Bia to be with her, but never doing it. She was tired of being the other woman. And then she sent me the final proof. It was an audio file, a recording of a conversation between her and Marco. In the audio, I could hear Marco's voice, crystal clear, laughing as he bragged about how he had the situation under control. "Anna won't say anything," he said. "I've got a little something from her past that keeps her in line. She's more scared of me than anything else. Bia will never know. I have them both, the perfect girlfriend and the loyal best friend, exactly where I want them." The audio continued, with him detailing his plan to keep both women in his life, manipulating them both. I felt the floor disappear. He wasn't just blackmailing me to protect his relationship. He was using me as a piece in his sick game of power and control. I wasn't a silent witness. I was a tool. And with that audio file on my phone, I finally had a weapon. But using it still meant entering a war that could destroy everyone and everything I loved. The audio file on my phone was a ticking time bomb. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a victim, but like someone holding the detonator. The question was no longer if I should tell Bia the truth, but how. Just sending her the audio would be cruel, a brutal blow that would leave her alone to deal with the shrapnel. I owed her more than that. I owed her my support, my presence, and I owed it to myself to confront Marco, not as a hostage, but as the person who was going to dismantle his game. I arranged to meet with Sophia, the girl from the movies, at a coffee shop. Seeing her in person was strange. We were two strangers united by the deceit of the same man. We weren't rivals. We were allies. Together, we formed a plan. The climax took place in a busy cafe near campus, a place public enough to prevent a scene, but loud enough to give us privacy. I sent Marco a text telling him we needed to talk about our deal. He arrived with an air of superiority, a smug smile on his face. "Feeling the pressure, Anna?" he asked, taking a seat. Before I could answer, Sophia walked up and sat down at our table. Marco's smile vanished. "What is this?" he hissed. He tried to lie, to call her crazy, but his facade was cracking. "Marco, it's over," I said, my voice calm and firm. "Bia deserves to know the truth." He laughed, a bitter laugh. "And you're going to tell her? Are you going to risk your dirty little secret?" "No," I answered. "I won't have to say a thing." At that exact moment, Bia walked into the cafe. I had asked her to meet me there, telling her it was an emergency. Her face filled with confusion seeing the three of us together. "Anna, what's going on? Sophia, what are you doing with Marco?" Marco turned pale. He tried to stammer out an excuse, but I looked at Bia, my heart aching for her, and said, "Bia, please, just listen to this." I pressed play on my phone. The sound of Marco's voice, arrogant and cruel, filled the tense air around our table. The color drained from Bia's face as she heard every word, the confession of manipulation, the contempt in his voice when he spoke of me, the sick plan to keep us both under his control. When the audio ended, a heavy silence fell. Bia slowly lifted her eyes, first to Marco, whose face was now a mask of panic, and then to me. The tears that welled up in her eyes were of a deep pain, the pain of multiple heartbreaks at once. With a voice that was trembling but unshakable, she looked at Marco. "It's over," she said. "Don't you ever come near me again." He tried to argue, but her gaze silenced him. He stood up and walked away, a king deposed from his own pathetic kingdom. Now it was just the two of us. Bia's anger and pain turned to me. "Why didn't you tell me sooner, Anna? And what's the secret he was threatening you with?" In that moment, I knew there was no more room for lies. If our friendship had any chance of surviving, it had to be rebuilt on absolute truth, no matter how ugly. I took a deep breath, and I told her everything. I told her about my mistake in my junior year, the shame I carried alone, the reason I transferred. I laid all my secrets bare, handing her my vulnerability, and waited for the verdict. The epilogue of our story was not immediate. Healing took time. The weeks that followed were filled with difficult conversations, painful silences, and a conscious effort from both of us to understand and to forgive. Bia needed space to process Marco's betrayal, and I needed space to forgive myself for my past and for my silence. Slowly, like spring arriving after a harsh winter, we began to find our way back to each other. The foundation of our friendship, built over so many years, proved to be stronger than one man's lies. The horror story was over, and a new one about healing, honesty, and a friendship that survived its hardest test was just beginning. Want to see more exciting stories packed with the incredible world of K-pop? Join our club and let's dream together. Subscribe, like, and share. Bye!